Welcome to Plan9Crunch. I'm Doug Gibson. This is Joe Gibson. We have a treat. We're watching a very early silent film, Frankenstein, from 1910. And it was made by Thomas Alva Edison's Edison Studios. It's a short, only one reel. And this is an example of very primitive early silent films where you basically have a narrator rather than dialogue. And let's get into it. It just tells about Frankenstein right now in college. Most of these things are filmed like in one room. The actor who plays Frankenstein, his name was, where is it right now? It was Augustus Phillips. And he was a stage actor like most of these people who gravitated over to film. And he eventually, he also starred in several films, but eventually moved to London where he died, I believe, about 25 or 30 years later. Joe, do you have anything to talk about the film right now?
Well, it's just important to note that it's following the novel somewhat, specifically the 1818 version of the novel. He's at college at the beginning, that's the important part, where he discovers how to create life.
Notice how these are always filmed like in the same setting, the same stage, and they're filmed almost like still a play. The actors have to really emote.
Yeah. Because
they're not given any dialogue. They have stuff like this, and the film's director, his name is, we were watching this today, J. Searle Dolly, who had a long career, and he also hitched on with Edison these early days when they were filming movies in New York. And he also directed A Christmas Carol, which we can watch later this year. It was also an Edison's film, and is much the same way as this. There was big ballyhoo for this movie. Thomas Edison's company did not want to focus on the horror elements. They wanted it to be more of a psychological piece. And Joe, before I want to turn it over to you, but this scene right here,
yeah, this scene is pretty good,
where they create Frankenstein, was a big sensation in that time period. And it reminds me, and people may think I'm crazy, it reminds me of Harry Potter 4 movie where Voldemort returns back to life. He's just grabbing little parts of this skeleton and stuff and throwing it into this vat.
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't get much of his college stuff here, where in the book there's like differing perspectives from the teachers, and that's interesting.
Well, they're just making this on as fast as they can.
Some later adaptations use like electrical science to try and justify it. This seems more like alchemy though to me.
Yeah, it does. This is a very effective scene though. If I had to say one good thing about this movie, it's this scene. It is pretty well done for its time. And we were reading Wikipedia where we saw a press release that gave the summation or the synopsis of this movie, and they were talking about how evil was the main thing, that Frankenstein had been seduced by evil, Dr. Frankenstein, but was being revived by his wife, who we'll see later, and family.
His father and his fiance.
Yeah, he's like in a temporary madness here, they're trying to say, more or less. Look at this scene. This scene is pretty darn good. I can see someone's obviously moving their hand, right there and everything.
It's simple, it's basic, it's rudimentary, but it works.
It does work, and the good doctor starts to get horrified pretty soon. I want to talk about the actor who portrayed Frankenstein's monster, because he had a pretty intense career.
Charles Ogle?
Yeah, Charles. He had a middle name too. I can't remember what it is right now. But Charles Ogle.
Charles Stanton Ogle.
Yeah, he was born in 1865. He'd already had an established career, but like many people, he wanted to move into films. In 1910, films were not as esteemed as the stage. It was sort of a come down, but a lot of people had the vision to know it was the future. Yeah, that is great. That is great.
All right, carry on, yeah.
Well, I just love watching this scene. I think it's the best scene in the movie. He's playing the little madman right here, and suddenly he realizes, oh no, it's horrible, and everything. What have I done? I love the emoting these people do. It was a separate skill from other things, and it's probably a lot of reason some silent performers didn't do so well in the talkie era. Frankenstein appalled at the sight of his own creation. He's lying down. He's not lying down yet. Okay, Charles Ogle, by the way, was...
Now he's lying down.
Yeah, he's lying down. You're going to see a pretty good scene, too, of the monster coming into it like this.
And
Joe,
there's Charles Ogle.
Do you agree that at least this film conveys the monster's fascination with his creator to some degree that's in the book? And his anger at the creator and stuff like that?
Well, my familiarities with the 1831 version, as is most, so I don't know if there's substantial changes to that, but there is a connection here. It's not quite the same, though. He's more of a child longing for a parent, then getting bitter and spending all the time that he can with Frankenstein under the guise of, trying to kill him. Exactly. I'm assuming that's Clerval, because in the book it's Henry Clerval, his friend, that finds him and nurses him back to health. But that could be his father, I don't know.
They don't really, I don't even know if they mention names of these people. We're going to meet his fiancée soon.
Yeah.
But they wanted to like I said, they wanted to downplay violence. So now he's coming home. Everything moves so quickly in these one-reel films.
Okay, so it's not his father. That's probably Clerval then, but
yeah.
Uncredited.
This actress is Mary Fuller. I think it's Mary Fuller. I don't want to botch her name.
Fuller.
She was also an actress who first she worked with Vitagraph, even before Edison in films, and then she signed with Edison. She became quite a star from this movie. And I saw her one time on Turner Classic Movies. She played in a serial called Dolly of the Dailies, an enterprising reporter. Most of that serial is lost, but she had a tragic career. She apparently had a romance with an opera singer that went bad. Her film started to lose money, and by 1917 she was out of movies. She resurfaced in 1924. Where she's living with her mother, and she said she was doing well financially and she wanted to make a comeback, but nothing happened to that. And then nothing was known about Mary Fuller for years until she was administered. She was put in a mental hospital in the 40s, and she stayed there for the last 25 years of her life, and she died in early 1970s. She had no living family, so she was buried in Congressional Cemetery in an unmarked grave. But recently there is a bench with her name on it there now. I just think it's so sad about sometimes how stars disappear in Hollywood and they don't have support systems. This is a great scene because it's using the mirror.
Yeah, the mirror is a motif throughout this thing.
Yeah, it's a kind of sophisticated filming technique for this period. If you watch a lot of these films like Patchwork Girl of Oz, I remember Buddy Barnett one time saying, I think in a review, that they're just like jumping around. This film's better. It is histrionic and everything, but it does have sort of a plot you can follow pretty well. And like I said, Ogle was kind of regarded as a big man on Broadway too, Charles Ogle. And he was in a movie called, what was the movie he was made? It was well, I'm going to find the title, but he was with Lon Chaney in 1920 film. Let me see if I can find that right now. He played Long John Silver in Treasure Island, and that's a preserved film, I believe. This is a really effective look. They don't use a lot of special effects, but they make the monster look pretty gross and it's pretty scary. Now, he's supposed to see himself in the mirror, right? Yeah. So he's horrified by the way he looks.
But it's good.
No, it's the wedding night. Frankenstein's better nature asserting itself.
Well, yeah, that is. It's gonna be blue in a few moments when the monster comes, right? It's red right now.
It's amazing. This is 115 years ago. This film was released, I believe, in March of 1910. These are extras, and I just kind of wish I'd go back in time and see this in a theater someday. It'd be so cool. And so I want you to tell us how this is resolved, because it's sort of a goody-goody way that they wanted to have to get away from the violence of Frankenstein, where his wife dies and a friend of his dies, a brother dies or something. We're going to get to the climax of this film. They're going to have an unwelcome intrusion to their wedding night.
Yeah, and so the monster design is effective. It's different from the book because in this one it's sort of some
it's
alchemical
to me,
machination from his mind, the evil in his mind.
yeah, it's
rather
kind
than
of an
something he's sculpted.
anticlimactic end to me, even though I really enjoy this movie. There he is.
But like, this monster is debatably not totally flesh and blood. It's created by the darker impulses of Franklin's mind, literally.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
figuratively.
They didn't go to a cemetery and grab someone for this thing, right?
Which I think informed the design, because he's just sort of misshapen, like a human from memory almost.
Yeah. Oh, this Augustus, I wanted to say Augustus Gloop. Augustus Phillips was all, he didn't have a great career, but he was in a 1914 film called The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. It's probably lost, but I'd love to see it. And so, according to the director here, the idea is the monster becomes overcome with the love they have for each other and withdraws from society, right?
Yeah. It's quite... okay. It's quite different in the book.
Yeah, this movie almost pops up. The creation of an evil mind is overcome by love and disappears. This movie pops up on Turner Classic Movies Silent Sundays usually every year in October. And I highly recommend people watch it.
And now here's the confusing...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the histrionics. I don't mean that as an insult. I love the way they're emoting and everything. I mean, that's the way they acted back then in these films. It was still in the primitive era. It's kind of amusing, though, that in 20 years they'll be doing... Yeah, there he
You want to
goes.
explain what just happened?
It's hard to explain. He disappeared. And here comes... He sees him for a while. And then he sees himself, and we have the happy ending that I secretly want for every horror movie, to be honest.
Not every horror movie.
Well, maybe not Night of the Living Dead. That had a pretty cool ending.
Yeah.
But a film like Drag Me to Hell bugs me with his jump endings. Okay, and there's Thomas Alva Edison. And that's about all. Thanks a lot, Jack. We appreciate that. So I guess, any final thoughts about this movie?
Well, like again, the monster is less so a plotting flesh and blood creature that has its revenge span across years and countries, so much as just some alchemical spawn of the mind that was resolved by positive emotions.
I'll just say, if you had to summarize Frankenstein in 12 minutes, they did a pretty good job, all right? But fortunately,
That's fair, yeah.
in the years since, this is the oldest version that's still extant. Fortunately, in the years ahead, we've had more in-depth versions, but I love this movie. And we appreciate you watching with us at Plan9Crunch. And that's a wrap.